Alright, can y'all hear me alright? I hope y'all can hear me a-okay. If y'all can hear me, let me know in chat. I'm not gonna say anything more until I know. I think we're good. Oh yeah, there we go. Okay, good. Alright, so um today we are gonna be covering a moderate risk of severe weather. And if I go over to my other scene here, you can see that we have a level 4 out of 5 for severe weather later on this afternoon and into the evening. Um, that'll mainly be encompassing strong tornadoes are likely, massive hail, and by massive I mean 3+ inches or more. We're also going to be covering like damaging winds. There's a lot going on today. And we wanted to go live a little bit earlier to kind of, update y'all and kind of let you know what we mean. I am joined also by Mason, who is in the background, who will be coming in here in a few minutes. Yeah, for sure, a big weather day coming up. But yeah, we wanted to go live to kind of get y'all up to date and kind of go over what you can expect. And then as we move on into the afternoon, we've got, I believe, 3 or 4 people out today that are going to be tuning in later, like in the form of a chaser. And as we continue on throughout the day, we are hoping that we are going to be able to provide you guys with a little bit of ground truth. But yeah, so as I said, I'm joined by Mason, and we are going to be kind of going over what y'all can expect for later on this afternoon. Mason, do you real quick want to talk about what kind of hazards we could be seeing?
Yeah. I'm gonna start off with the warnings though, real quick here. So let me get up our storm track Doppler. So here's what we have at the moment. Currently, not all too much, but this was very much forecasted by our models earlier in the day. See a little bit of a squall line moving through, already hit Des Moines, but mainly down the line, the I-80 area is going to have to worry about that kind of south of Ames. And also a few flash flood warnings we've been watching as well, but we're going to focus on this one real quick. The Weather Service is warning that for 1-inch hail and 60-mile-per-hour winds. So you could have some gustier winds. It's not going to be anything like we're seeing later on today. This is just kind of the appetizer, so to speak, with the storms that are soon to come later in the day. But with this, you could have some wind damage possibly, but we're not going to see anything too major. I'll pull a storm track time on it. So they're having it moving at 44. So if this does hold up here, you're talking about areas like, let's move that over there. Prairie City about 9:42, and these are all in Central Daylight Time, right about there. Monroe about 9:50, State Center top of the hour. You have Sully around 10:09, and then Marshalltown about 10:18. So not highly populated, but along I-80 that could lead to some issues. But in terms of rainfall, that's going to be another issue today. We have had some reports of flash flooding already, so remember, turn around, don't drown. We say it a lot, but a lot of people still do it, and it does lead to issues, as you've seen before. So this rather is the rainfall over the last 12 hours. So you can see definitely the hot spots here. So about 5 inches along the I-80 corridor, north rather of Omaha, about 5 to 6 inches, maybe an isolated 7 inches in there, and kind of widespread north of I-80, 5 to 7 inches as well. But this is going to be more rainfall caked on top of what we already have, which is a lot. So that could lead to a few issues down the road. So I want to kind of check our dew points. So at the moment, uh, we're about 70s dew points. Here's that warm front that you may have heard brought up. That is going to lift north with time and give us a greater severe threat. So while it might not feel like a severe weather threat in South Minneapolis are kind of south Minnesota, rather, so near Rochester, along the I-90 corridor. That's going to change as we go on throughout time, and our temperatures are going to also increase. You can see below that, kind of near St. Louis and whatnot, we're in the 70s, but towards the north, you're kind of in the 50s to 60s, but that will 100% change. We're going to have to gear up for a more active severe weather day, and as we already brought up before, this is a pretty rare level 4 out of 5 risk for severe weather, and that key area we're watching is going to be along the I-80 corridor, kind of near 35, that goes all the way down to Kansas City, all the way over to about Davenport is going to be the areas that we're watching. So the hazards with that we're going to have to be keeping an eye out for is one, tornadoes, which will be significant in nature if they can hold. The main things that we're watching on a more analytical side of things is one, if they can remain discrete or not. A more clustered mode or even or linear rather will lead to a very strong straight line wind threat. So understand, even if you don't see a tornado today, which there's a 15% chance within a 25-mile point of seeing a significant tornado, even if you don't get that, the issue will be the wind, which there is a 45 significant chance of very strong winds. So you're seeing Des Moines into Cedar Rapids into Davenport, and this area is no stranger to the wind. Think back to 2020. We had the derecho that pushed on through. This is not going to be much like this, but you're going to have winds possibly in pockets somewhere near 70 to 80, maybe even 90 mile per hour. And also the hail will be the next threat, so that's a 45 significant chance that encompasses the Omaha to Des Moines to northern Missouri region that we're going to have to keep a very close eye on. And our storm fuel, this is convective available potential energy, basically just what the thunderstorms can use. This was the morning line that pushed on through, so you can see it right there on the radar composite. There's not much behind, but what will happen is, and this is a little bit sciencey, but we're gonna break it down. So these little contours is your surface low. So what will happen is this is gonna push on north. This is gonna allow our moisture to really have a focused corridor. So about this region here, you're going to feel it rapidly moistening. So South Minnesota, like I said before, while you're not seeing much changes in even northern Iowa, it feels relatively cool. That's going to change with time, and that's going to allow us to enhance our severe weather threat as we push on throughout time. So that's something that we're keeping a extremely close eye on. At the moment, like we said before, we're not seeing a whole lot, and that's because our upper level jet stream at 500 millibars, basically the middle of the atmosphere, is still all the way back here, and that still has to push over Iowa and those regions, and it has not done that yet. Thus, we don't have our main severe weather potential. So what everyone is probably curious about, instead of all this mumbo jumbo, is what's the timings like? So models are varying, but we're going to show you a very common model, the HRRR model, or the HRRR. So what it's been showing is something that's relatively interesting. So we're going to use the 12Z run, which is the latest one that we have here. So it's getting the morning convection not so well. So a general rule of thumb, rather, that we go with is that if a model is not getting the convection right an hour ahead, it's not gonna, or it's not likely to get it right in the future. And I don't think we have the 13Z in, so we're just going to go with this. So you can see this convection pushes on through. We're going to start to warm up. We're going to start to destabilize, and we're going to have a lot of heating at the surface, which is going to allow for storms to start to fire. Now, we really think that the main threat times are going to be from kind of anywhere from 2 p.m. Central to around 4 p.m. Central, and maybe this is clustered, so you can see model time 3 p.m. Maybe it's more clustered, maybe it's more discrete, or maybe it's a full-on bow segment. with the amount of dry air we have, this could lead to stronger, higher end wind gusts, and we can actually show you the forecast wind with this model here. But it pushes on throughout time. This is 5 p.m. You can see it has more of a line shape. Now, I don't know if I 100% buy this. It could be more discrete. It could be more line, but either way, damaging winds, tornadoes, some of which could be strong, and some hail would not be ruled out. I think Des Moines were clearing out by the time we get to 7 p.m. Maybe some lingering showers, and then Cedar Rapids into Erie, into Freeport are going to be the next areas we're watching. And this is still in the level 4 out of 5 risk here for today. Moves on through, I think, into Wisconsin. If you have anyone watching from there, you guys are going to have a big wind threat with maybe some embedded tornadoes. I don't think it's awfully that high, but along the warm front, along 94 to 90, we got to watch that very closely. That is fully pushed out by probably about midnight here. And then for our southern regions into, let's say, Davenport to Burlington to 74 to 80, those are areas that we're watching. Maybe a few discrete storms, some of which could be severe. And then also Missouri into kind of Oklahoma City, maybe a little bit. You're in a thunderstorm risk. But mainly eastern parts of Oklahoma, western parts of Arkansas, even into Fort Worth, down to Brady. That could be an issue as well. I will say your tornado threat is very low, and that's mainly a hail risk. But nonetheless, that's something that we're keeping a very close eye on as we go on throughout time. So, like I promised before, let's look at those wind gusts. And I think this model is handling it pretty well. That if we see some wind, it would be rather significant, unfortunately, and it could cause a fair amount of issues. So I don't think the 48-hour model is going to cooperate here with me, unfortunately. Wind gusts. We're going to try to get this here. None. And then let's use this. So these are the future winds. This is the line, okay, pushing on through. So a few kind of point areas we're watching, maybe a few 70-mile-per-hour winds. Again, this is very enhanced inside the line, but overall 60, 70, maybe a few 80s, like I said before. And that's going to push on without time. And you could see a few gusts higher than that. There's a 90 pixel, a few 80 pixels, 70s. And that's going to go well into Wisconsin, maybe some gustier winds into Illinois, but that's really going to start to ramp down as it pushes into Michigan there for your overnight risk. So, I don't know if we have any questions, Hunter. We can go over those, very much so. We don't have much at the moment.
Yeah,
Nothing is
we
severe.
did have one from On the Smoke. What do you think about Council Bluff? Smoke. If you can tell us where that would be at,
So,
specifically.
smoke from the wildfires, I'm guessing.
No,
That's.
no, that was the username.
Oh.
Yeah. What about
So the
Council
forecast
Bluff?
for Council Bluff.
What-
What Council Bluff is, you have to jog my memory
I'm trying to
a little
remember
bit
that as
here.
well. And then we
I
had.
think it's in, I had to remember in Iowa.
And then we had Dan say, "Hi
That's gonna be
guys."
near Omaha. Okay, so
Okay.
near Omaha, kind of near western Iowa, you could say. At the moment, you guys aren't seeing a lot. We can put the radar in that region. Uh, Not a whole lot we're watching, maybe a few lingering showers, but you guys are going to get part of the threat as it pushes on through, but you're not in the highest risk. You're in a level 3, maybe on the edge of a level 4 risk there, but mainly when that line starts to ramp up, starts to go, you guys are going to be in the path for that, and it's going to be mainly some damaging winds, and you can't roll out a tornado or two or some larger hail. We had the future radar up here a bit ago, and it didn't have all too much, but you did have that line pushing through. We can actually put that in motion there. So this is what this particular model has. It doesn't have a lot for that region, but understand that this is only one model, and this could very much go all the way down the line here as it's pushing into greater Iowa. So definitely watch out for that. Not the highest risk, but definitely a risk nonetheless that you need to keep a relatively close eye on. I think there might be a little bit of rotation with this that we can
Yeah, I was about
keep
to
a bit of
bring
an
that
eye
up.
on. So here's what our radar is showing. Again, this is our velocity product. It's basically the winds in the storm. So this is going towards the radar. Okay. This is going away. And that might be a little area of spin near Prairie City that we're keeping a close eye on. I don't think we have any spotters on it at the moment, but that could potentially do a little spin up. I don't think it'd be anything major, luckily, but that's a little something that we're gonna have to keep a close eye on there for the most part.
I wonder if there are any traffic cameras in that area.
There might be. I'm not seeing all too much though.
Yeah, let me see. I believe that would be under Iowa 511. Yeah. If I can find a good traffic cam, I'll go ahead and pull it up for y'all. Prairie City.
Yeah, that's the next scam there. We're gonna stick with this for a little bit, and then we're gonna go back to the forecast, but this is possibly a tornadic situation developing south of Prairie City. To get your bearings straight, we are looking in central Iowa now with the severe thunderstorm warning. A tornado warning has not been issued, but there is a tornado possible tag on the severe thunderstorm warning there, and it just went away. But it's kind of south of Prairie City. Go back on the velocity, south of 163. That's the area that we're watching right there, kind of near the Monroe area. While a tornado warning is not issued, we're going to give you the first alert and tell you that there could be a tornado here very soon. So if you're near this region, I would probably consider watching out, not necessarily taking cover just yet. We're going to wait for this new rotation signature to pop up here and see if it did hold. Next scan, it's a little more broad, which is good. The environment, understand, is not all that good at the moment. We're still in the early morning. It's 9:43. The environment hasn't fully heated up yet, but that could change here very soon. So again, here's your inflow into the storm. So that's the warm, moist air. That would kind of be your rear flank type region, and right there would be your possible tornadic circulation, which does line up there on reflectivity. It's a little bit older, but you get the kind of general idea with it. So south of Prairie City, we're watching nothing all too significant with that besides the possible tornado threat. Maybe a little bit of hail and some gustier winds, but nothing all too much.
Yeah, so after looking around for a few traffic cameras, all the good ones are up north, unfortunately. So I think we're kind of out of luck on that. But as it does continue to push off more to the northeast, we might be able to get a shot of it here. And if we are able to get a shot of it over the skyline, I'll go ahead and pull it up for y'all. Uh, but yeah, as Mason did bring up, we're at what 9:44 Central,
So
10:44.
that's the shear tracker.
Ooh,
And
wow.
understand it's a scale from green to red to extreme, they call it. But it's definitely rotating.
Oh
I'm gonna
yeah.
say that much. So if you know anyone near 183, kind of in between Monroe and Prairie City, I'd be keeping an eye on it. That's a little bit concerning. If there's a tornado warning, we're going to let you know, but we don't want to stay hyper fixated on one area as there's a lot of storms this evening. Kind of Minnesota, you're probably getting some light drizzle this morning, even into Wisconsin, maybe some heavier storms, and even out there for our friends in kind of North Kansas, not really Central Kansas. You're getting a little bit of cloudy skies in Central Kansas at the moment, but mainly near North Platte and Grand Rapid, or Grand Island rather, along almost all of I-80. You're gonna get a lot of storms today. Not really all too severe, but definitely some light drizzle. We do have some watches in effect I want to go over. So even though we don't have much at the moment, the Storm Prediction Center does have a severe thunderstorm watch for 70-mile-per-hour winds and about 1.5-inch hail until 1 p.m. today. So more watches are going to be issued, and I'm going to bet that they're going to go ahead and cancel it for this area here, as most of that convection is starting to push out of the area there, which is good.
Not really seeing anything new right now.
Yeah, and if there's no questions, we did get some reports earlier of some flooding ongoing. We did brought that up, or we did bring that up rather at the beginning of the stream. But here's some few local storm reports from trained weather spotters and the public. So about 1-inch hail there along I-80. We did get some damage reports, just some tree limbs, nothing all too bad there. 70-mile-per-hour winds. That's just kind of a taste of what we're gonna get later on into the day, unfortunately, of what is really to come with this.
Right. We have about 12 or so people on the stream right now. Hey, if y'all have any questions about like your own area, like your own little city or your own area, throw it in the chat and we'll go over it. I would imagine a majority of y'all tuning in are probably in the affected area and would like to know about your own location. So,
Yeah, and here's the severe risk. Understand, once again, this is the morning convection. It might not be strong at the morning if you're in Waterloo or you're near Cedar Rapids. You may be thinking I've been through worse. The worst is still to come. We're still in the morning round of convection. We still have the afternoon round that's going to push in. We are, by all means, not over. And what I want to do, we're going to take probably the analytical radar, which is something that we use to get a better idea instead of the fancy graphics. Let me pull that up real quick here. And this is something that we look at to get a better view of it. So that's that rotation near Prairie City. We do have a storm chaser near that. That is kind of going to the south. So if it is on the ground, we'll alert you. But even then, that's some stronger winds south of Prairie City. You're talking 50 to 60 miles per hour if you don't have a tornado. So nonetheless, that could lead to some issues there. But I really think it's ramping down a little bit. So
yeah, I mean, and you know, we are going live now to kind of give everybody an update, kind of, make sure everybody that ends up tuning into the stream is ready for what could be a pretty active day later on this afternoon. It is, you know, moderate risk aren't very common. I mean, they happen all the time every year, but it's not
only
like your
about
every other day type of thing.
about 10% of the time you're going to get a moderate risk, and that's
Right.
when there's elevated convection of higher severe potentials. That's for today, rather, strong tornadoes, can't rule any of those out, and significant winds of upwards to 80 to maybe 90 mile per hour. That's pretty significant.
You're right. Yeah. And so, as Mason kind of iterated on earlier, even though it may be raining and maybe not even thundering at your house up there in central to northern southern Iowa, that doesn't mean you're out of the woods yet. I would say, and I'm pretty sure Mason would agree, anytime from around 1 p.m. Central or 2 p.m. Eastern is when you need to watch out. Because after this line ends up moving through, you're going to have clear skies for what, Mason? Probably 2 or 3?
You're going to really start to destabilize pretty
Yeah,
much over the
two
coming
or 3 or
hours.
4 hours even. And then your secondary round will move in. So we're going live early to kind of let y'all know about not what could happen with this current line. I mean, you may have a spin up tornado or two, but it's really later on this afternoon and into early this evening when it could get pretty bumpy for y'all. So, and we're only really anticipating one round, and that one round will begin at around what 2 or 3 o'clock for Western Iowa.
Something like that. I'll go ahead and pull up the models again, and this is only one model at the moment, which is the HRRR model. A lot of people use that. So we're gonna throw that up real quick. Let's do the 48 hour. So this is about 2 p.m., 4 p.m. That's starting to push on through.
All right. But yeah, we've got, like I said, about 2 people, or not 2 people, 12 people rather here tuning in. If y'all have any questions about your own little location, throw it in chat and we'll go over it for y'all. But right now we are kind of in a limp mode, if you will, when it comes to coverage, because there's not really a lot going on. Like I said earlier, the primary reason for going live was to kind of alert everybody, kind of catch everybody up on what could happen later on this afternoon, because it could be rather significant. So if y'all have anything in the chat, feel free to throw it in there and we'll go over it. Let me see if I can find some cameras in Iowa. I think that'd be kind of.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot from what I saw, unfortunately, but if there's any pictures you do want to show,
That
make
we
sure to
can't.
tag
That
Axpart
we can
Service
show.
on Twitter.
Yeah. And I
We'll be
will.
sure to definitely take a look at it.
I,
But the environment's primed, which is really how the storms use it, pretty much. And that's with every event. So the Storm Prediction Center is thinking this is going to continue, this little line, well into northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin. So that's something to note, but at the moment, it's just kind of 60-mile-per-hour winds and some smaller hail. Not really all too large, fortunately.
right. Let's see. I mean, we only have one big SVR, and I believe that would be a regular, regular SVR ongoing. That rotation we were talking about earlier is very minimal now. It did look like it might try to spin something up, but it never really got it going. So that's good.
Yeah, the
Uh,
environment's not really all that good for that at the moment, but that'll change with time.
let's see. Have you looked at the impasse lately, Mason? Let me see.
Not really. I'm not sure it's in. I can pull that up and see. Yeah, there's really nothing new. We can look at some of the other models. I'll go and take my browser here. So here's a few models that we look at for severe weather. So you can see not a whole lot here at the moment. This is what the NAM 3 kilometer has. And that's a little bit interesting right there. That's some
We had a
possible
question.
convection. There's a lot of dry air on the NAM. I'm not sure I buy that all too much. I mean, maybe that would limit the threat a little bit, but a lot of models don't like to mix or really get the environment looking how it should, actually. So that's a little bit interesting. Here's
We
another model. Uh,
we had a question regarding when we would be going live again. That would really all depend on if we end up ending this one. Likely we probably will for a brief bit because later on this afternoon we're gonna have I think 4 chasers out on the ground in Iowa, Illinois, and possibly
yeah,
even
we're
into
gonna have
northern
live
Missouri.
chasers. That's really the main thing.
Yeah,
We're gonna have a lot of chasers on the ground. We're gonna be giving kind of a live commentary of what they're seeing and what the actual storm is doing. So definitely be sure to have our notifications on. When we go live, you can do that on the YouTube app. You go down, should be a little bell. Click that, you're gonna get notifications when we're live. You're gonna be able to see those live storm chasers who will possibly get some tornadoes. They're some of the best in the field that will be able to give us that information and keep you alerted, of course, which is always important. Let's go back to the radar instead of looking at this mumbo jumbo here and see the actual kind of conditions out there. But yeah, Hunter, I'm not seeing a
yeah,
whole lot, which is good.
yeah. I mean That little area we were talking about earlier down here near Monroe, Iowa, or Prairie City, Iowa. It tried to do it and it failed miserably.
We'll go ahead and pull up the Doppler here and see.
He really tried it, but he didn't get there.
So near noon along 80, you're probably getting some gusty winds, but your tornado threat is pretty low at the moment. I'd say it's probably some gusty winds pushing through. We still gotta watch these areas for a possible spin up, but I think that threat's pretty low at the moment, which is good. Maybe some gusty winds. We can actually pull up our hail product, which shows us the size of the hail, and you can see it's rather small, about an inch or so, moving towards the Newton area. So that's something that we gotta watch, but it's not all too large, and the possibility of it being significant is also rather low, which is good. And I do think our shear also, yeah, our shear rate's pretty much down with this, so I think it's really just gonna be a wind and hail threat for the moment.
Yeah, so for those of y'all that are tuning in now, we aren't monitoring the main event. The main event will be later on this afternoon. We are monitoring the what was left of the Colorado event from yesterday, as it's pushing on through Iowa. Behind this current band of showers and storms are really clear skies, and I'm not sure if Mason can pull up satellite here. But we
Yeah, you
are.
can see a little bit of clearing starting to take place there. So let's do this. That's kind of your clearer skies, and I can do a better image than this, rather.
And
You can
clearing is
kind
what
of
you
see
not want to
that.
see on a day like today. Uh,
Yeah. So what we're gonna do, current time 9:57. We're tracking severe weather kind of at the moment, but that is going to come later in the day. We have a lot of new people, so we're going to start from the beginning, go over everything we know at the moment so we can keep you alert, of course. So, a level 4 out of 5 risk has been issued for a lot of areas today. So, I'm going to go and pull that up real quick. We're going to turn off satellite. We're going to put on the convective risk here. Here's the current thunderstorms, but understand this is just morning convection. Sure, you're going to get some gusty winds and some small hail, but this is not the main threat. That's going to come later today, but nonetheless, here's some of the areas included in that. You have Des Moines over to Davenport, Cedar Falls, also talking about northern Missouri, St. Joseph, Maryville, Kirksville. Those are the areas we're watching, but outside of that, it expands a larger risk for some tornadoes and damaging winds, including Green Bay, Chicago, over to Peoria, down to Springfield. Also talking about the I-70 corridor from Columbia to Kansas City, down to I-44 into Springfield to Joplin. And then a hail threat over towards the southern regions here, over near, let's say, eastern Oklahoma, western Arkansas, down towards the central Texas region, even a little marginal here for the northeast. But definitely our main threat is going to be this region. So let's talk specific threats here for a little bit. Your specific threats are going to be significant tornadoes possibly today, and that's if everything pans out. This is a 15% chance within a 25-mile radius of seeing a significant tornado. So let's say, for example, if I'm in Cedar Rapids, within a 25-mile radius, there's the chance of a significant tornado occurring. So it's not to say we're going to exactly get one, but that's a higher end risk that was issued. And outside of that, in the yellow color, that's a 10% chance. It's slightly lower, but still Peoria into north of Kansas City, around those regions, that's going to be the area that we're watching for a potentially higher threat. And even near Joplin into Springfield, we got to keep a very, very close eye on that. But understand, if you don't get a tornado, you're going to have a wind risk. This is a 45 significant chance of seeing significant wind gusts. That's 70, 80, maybe even 90-mile-per-hour winds. I know our Iowa folks here, Cedar Rapids, Des Moines, along I-80, we've seen the derechos before, and not saying that this is going to be exactly like that, because that would be false information, and that's not what we're wanting to do. We just want to simply say that we have had events in the past that have done stuff like this, and today needs to be treated as a higher end situation for those significant wind gusts. So if you have any preparations, Davenport, all of Iowa, I'm going to say, even to northern Missouri into Illinois, from Peoria down to Princeton, those areas, we got to really have our A game on today for those significant wind gusts as they occur. And you can also get some isolated sporadic gusts near Kansas City to Springfield, maybe into Dallas, but really your threats for some larger hail and some tornadoes with that. And speaking of hail, there is a significant chance, 45 significant, of seeing some larger hailstones near Des Moines into northern Missouri, near Omaha, those regions, and even into Kansas City to St. Louis, Chicago, Green Bay. Those areas are going to be what we're really watching today for the threat of severe weather. So let's talk about timing. Let's get rid of the risk for a little bit. What we're going to do is we're going to overlay this under so you see the areas we're watching. We're also going to put on future radar so we can get a general idea. This is a new run of our futurecast graphic here. So at the moment, it's getting the thunderstorms correct. As I said earlier, if the models really aren't getting what we have right now correct, it's not going to get the future correct, more than likely. But it's doing somewhat good. We're going to play this out here. You can see this really starts to deteriorate. So if you're along I-90 into Wisconsin, we're not seeing a whole lot with that. However, you can see these storms throughout time start to get going. So I know someone mentioned about Omaha earlier. Like I said, the model wasn't showing you in a whole lot, but now it's starting to really show that convection firing around 2 p.m. That's what we've been watching here, and into about 4 p.m. Now, kind of a few issues, fail mode, so to speak. This is not a guaranteed you're gonna see a significant tornado. What's more guaranteed is the wind threat with this, and what we're going to be watching, you may have heard the term before, discrete supercells. What that is are kind of isolated cells that are in their own environment, pushing on their long or their own axis and able to really take a hold of that environment. This model has it more clustered into a line, and if this is the case, Des Moines, we'd be talking about a higher end wind threat instead of a kind of stronger tornado threat. You could still have strong tornadoes with it into Des Moines, but that threat would be a lot less if this does come into play. But talking about 6 p.m., you can see Minneapolis, Rochester, into kind of northern Wisconsin. You guys are going to see some possibly flash flooding with this. That would not shock me, but some also stronger wind gusts along that warm front wherever it sets up there. But really along here, that's concerning me a little bit. The isolated discrete supercells near Springfield into Joplin. This is going to be an issue if we have the environment. I think the issue is our dry air. If we have too much dry air, that could kill the risk entirely, but that is not something you like to see here along the I-44 corridor. So we're going to be keeping a extremely close eye on that. But near after 5 p.m. rather, that's when that's going to start to ramp up. Into 8 p.m., maybe we get more of a line in Wisconsin. This is going to be your stronger wind threat, talking 60, maybe 75 plus mile per hour gust. And into Davenport, little isolated cells that we're watching that would all pose the threat of a tornado. And as we go into about 11 p.m. here, you're really starting to ramp down St. Louis, maybe some thunder, maybe some gusty winds into Fort Smith. But really, this line's going to push into Canada, into Green Bay, and maybe cause a little bit of issues there. And if we have any questions, just let me know, and I'll go over that.
Yeah, so we've got roughly 22 people watching. We thank y'all and really do appreciate y'all for tuning in. If y'all have any questions about your specific area, feel free to throw it in chat and we'll go over it and kind of give you your own little localized forecast. That is what we're here for and why we're live so early. So we can kind of update everybody on what's going on, really before the main event later on today. That way, you're more weather aware, a few hours before the event. So yeah, if y'all have any questions, Mason, do you have the chat pulled up?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I will say real quick though, near Marshalltown, Iowa, I'd be on the lookout for some stronger winds with this storm as it's pushing on through. We have some torrential rain with it, but definitely we can see some issues in that regard as we push on throughout time. Here's a little supercell starting to go near I-35 rather. So that's a little bit interesting. Our Doppler isn't showing any rotation tracks with it. You have some hail, but besides that, I don't think this is going to pose much of a threat until later on in the day. We talk about cloud cover a lot, and I will say something that's a little bit interesting is that we're going to have to destabilize, which is basically getting rid of the stable environment and making it more unstable. And what I am going to show here is kind of a graphic, you could say. It's more analytical and it's more for us to really analyze the environment. But I'm going to show you guys as well kind of what I'm watching here. So let me change this over to browser 1. So you can see here this kind of clearing. This is your ongoing showers and thunderstorms. But right in towards the back, that is going to be the area where we're going to see if we can get destabilization. Models are showing maybe we destabilize, maybe our environment's going to be conducive of those storms, which we do think it is, but maybe it won't be. That's something that's entirely possible, but a few areas of cloud cover starting to really go there and show itself, but at the moment, that is still yet to be seen if that's going to 100% be the case. Kind of our MEDARs, our winds, that's your low pressure that's going to kind of pump that moisture northwards and really have the threat of some tornadoes. That's your warm front. It's going to also lift a little bit north there. So kind of a lot of data to sift through here at the moment, but luckily we're not seeing anything all too severe. We'll go back to live Doppler radar. There's really not a whole lot, Hunter, to go over, luckily. Yeah, so we do have a graphic. Bear with me. I do have to find it, which I should have it somewhere, so
I had
just
a
bear with me a little bit.
I had a minor flunder and I did not unmute my mic on my source in OBS. But anyway, the point being that later on today we can talk about models as much as we want, but the main takeaway is that you need to be weather aware. A lot of people get off of work. A lot of parents out there go and grab the kids from school at around 3 or 4 p.m. Maybe even earlier if you're going to pick them up from daycare. So make sure that you have a way to get warnings later on, especially if you live in the northern Missouri, central Iowa, northern Iowa, and really into, I believe, the far southwestern portion of Wisconsin. So, we are not done with the event. Man, we haven't even gotten started yet. So, what we're covering now and what you're seeing on radar is what we call morning convection. So, for those that aren't aware, yesterday we had an event way back west in Colorado. That is very quickly rather, propagated to the east and is making its way through Iowa. Now, as that continues to propagate east, you've got a very good amount of clearing off to the west, and that's going to help the atmosphere really heat up over the course of the few hours we have to allow that to happen before we have storms fire off to the west. So, really, we're here early to kind of let y'all know, hey, it could get pretty bumpy later on this afternoon, and it's always good to be weather aware in any capacity, whether or not you're dealing with a day like today or really any day. It never hurts to be prepared. So, as I was saying earlier, if you're at home, if you're in a mobile home, you want to go to the most interior room. So, like, you're probably used to hearing about it on the news from your local weatherman. It is so true that I can't talk anymore about it. We've seen damaged pictures of homes where the complete outside wall of the home has caved in, but the inner portion of it, the most interior portion, is not fine, but it is structurally sound. And that's what matters for you to preserve your life and not get injured. And as I said earlier, but my mic was muted, Mason, maybe you can kind of go over that.
Yeah, so these are some of the areas we prefer to be in. This is for a site-built home. This is built on site. This is not a mobile home. This is a actual site-built foundation. So where to go? Top floor. This is not like flash flooding. We want you lowest level. Another thing that, that everyone's house is not going to be like that. I understand that. But the whole gist of it, you want to put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. You don't want to be near a window. Exterior walls aren't going to really help. If you have no basement, or you have a basement rather with no windows, go down there. Basement is always preferred, but lowest level, bathroom, interior room, hallway, closet, that is really going to get you through it. Most tornadoes are not going to be able to go through that, and you're going to be very safe if you go somewhere like that. But of course, if you do have a basement, by all means, go down there. That's a lot safer. But that's kind of the area that we would suggest for you to go, right?
Yeah, 100%. And like I said earlier, to kind of reiterate over it, we bring up a lot of models all the time. I'm pretty sure every weather guy does. But really, like I said, the key takeaway here is that y'all are ready for what could be a significant day ahead. Like I said, or like Mason said earlier, rather, you really only see a day like today maybe 10% of the time out of the year. So, it's not that it's rare. It is, when you see it, you want to be ready.
You gotta take action.
Yeah, you got to take action. I live in a house very old but don't have a room in the center. All rooms are exterior walls. So, really, in that situation, more of the. So, let's say you have a bathroom and, like, you would want to go to the bathroom in your house, if you have one, that if you were to punch a hole through it, it doesn't go outside. Like if I were to punch a hole through all the walls in your bathroom, um, I shouldn't be able to have my fist go outside. That would be ideal. But in another scenario, what you can do is, it sounds goofy, but grab like the mattresses, grab the kid's bike helmet, grab a whistle with you. That way, in the event that you are, God forbid, injured, you have a way to let, first responders know where you are. That way, because a majority of the time, depending on where you're injured on your body, it is going to be way more efficient to blow through a whistle than it would be trying to yell. Again, it sounds crazy, like, no, I'm not going to rip all the mattresses and all that off my bed. It's a lot of work. It could very well save your life.
It has in the past for a lot of people, but even if you don't have that interior room, another thing is having a plan of action. If you're in that warning, typically you have about a 15 to 10 minute lead time. So if you could drive to a substantial shelter, if you're in a mobile home, have that plan. That's what we like people to do on the off season. Know what you're going to do if you're in a warning and have that substantial shelter. Go to a convenience store, something like that that is site built that you're able to seek shelter in. That's really the most important part that we try to drive home. And Hunter, I'm gonna also pull up the warning types because not a lot of people don't know the different levels of warnings we have here.
Right.
So what I'm gonna do is pull that up real quick for you to kind of go over for a lot of people to kind of see the different types here that we've seen, and you should have that on your source there.
Yeah, I'm gonna go and switch back over. But yeah, so when we refer to a tornado watch, we don't want to get that confused with a tornado warning because that is a very real thing that people get confused by. It's like, you know, and to be fair, it is confusing. Tornado watch warning, you know. But a tornado watch is when conditions or the environment in the area where storms are about to develop or move into are favorable for the development of, potential tornadoes. So really, when we refer to a watch, that is when you really need to reinforce your tornado safety action plan. Don't wait until you're under a tornado warning, which we'll talk about here in a second. Go ahead and really make sure that you and your family have a place to go in the event that you are under a tornado warning. That is, if you are under a tornado watch. As for a tornado warning, that means a tornado is either imminent or it is likely. So when you're under a tornado warning, you need to be enacting on that plan that you made, maybe a few hours ago. Maybe you're the household that is always weather aware. When you're under a tornado warning, that is when you enact on that plan. We really do. I can't tell you how many times we reiterate when there is a tornado on the ground that we tell you to either run, not walk, or hunker down, because normally people like myself who are more hard-headed, we wait till the last minute to do anything, and that is really not advisable. Don't do that. Don't be us, for lack of a better term. We would rather have you be ready instead of you trying to develop an action plan when you've got maybe 10, 15, 20 minutes to, develop one. Because typically by the time you have a plan ready, it's already too late. And the last thing we want you to do is be in the middle of enacting on your safety plan and not be ready for it. Mason can vouch for me here. There have been several times when people have either been trying to get to their safe spot and unfortunately haven't made it, or there are people that have gotten in their car and think they know what direction to go to when their own home might have been, the better option here. So really, what you can do to kind of get ready for that is know where to pinpoint yourself on a map. That is something a lot of people don't really talk about a lot, is if we were to show you a map right now, could you tell us where your house is at? That is very crucial in knowing where and how you react to severe weather. And at the end of the day, we know from social science, from really any, a lot of the experimentation that we've done socially, that people enact a lot more when they see a tornado on video than they would when you're looking at a bucket of spilled paint on a radar. We understand that. But when you look at radar for a long time and you have people that are very concerned about a particular area of interest and they're telling you, hey, there's likely a tornado on the ground, then we urge you to heed that warning. While we can't, there are times like today where, we're in the middle of Iowa, we have no cameras, we have nothing like that. The only thing we have is radar and cornfields. And for those of y'all that live in Iowa, you know what the cornfields are like. You know how rough it can be. But likely, when we look at radar, the only thing we can see to identify a tornado is the corn being lofted up. So we really want to emphasize that while we aren't able to get video, we aren't able to get ground truth, which is what we're hopefully going to be able to provide later on this afternoon. When we aren't able to get that, when we urge you to go to your shelter, we really hope you heed that warning and really kind of enact on it. And we really hope that you take that warning and or take the time before all the warnings come in to really get your plan ready. Right, Mason?
Yeah, definitely that's something that we want everyone to do. Having a plan is the best case for a lot of things. It's, being prepared can definitely help a lot in crucial moments. I do want to talk about some of the warnings here. Or Hunter, if you want to talk about this a little bit here for the Gilman area, it's a cell that we were looking at a little bit earlier.
Oh yeah, the pretty big SVR we got here. Let me go and move over to
So I
my.
do have that up real quick there. So a little bit of a hail core possibly as live scan comes in.
Right. Yeah, so we are looking at a severe thunderstorm warning for Newton, Kellogg, Newburgh, Gilman, Haverhill. It's a massive warning, y'all. We'll put it that way. How bad will it be in Wisconsin and in Rapid? Is that Rapides, Wisconsin? Mason, you want to go over that?
Yeah, give me a quick second
And
here.
while you're doing that, we have about 35, close to 40 people in here. Thank y'all for watching. We are live a little bit early to kind of cover the potential significant severe weather threat we have later on this afternoon. From around 2 p.m. Central all the way into really the late afternoon or early afternoon and late evening hours. So, yeah, really, if y'all have any questions about your own location, uh, Boricus, we're going to get to your comment here in a minute. But yeah, we're live early and kind of getting back to that severe thunderstorm warning we're covering. This is your base severe thunderstorm warning. Got 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts and quarter-size hail that have been moving northeast at 45 miles an hour.
So let's go to Wisconsin real quick there, go over that. So this is one of the main models that we use, the high resolution rapid refresh of the HER. So it gives us a pretty good idea of what we're looking at for the most part. So let's go over to Wisconsin here and check that out on one of our models. Again, this is just one model. This is not exactly what's going to happen, but it gives us a pretty good idea of what we could see across the area as conditions start to kind of deteriorate. So here's one of the models at the moment near kind of central Wisconsin. I'm going to give more of a generalized for anyone else in Wisconsin, but kind of south of that area there, you can see near La Crosse, near kind of Wisconsin Rapids, near 94. This should be all subsevere for the most part. Your main threat is going to be as we go into 3 to 4 p.m. You see all that clustered mess pushing on through. This could be a little bit sooner, it could be a little bit late, But nonetheless, this squall line is really gonna push on through the region. So you see 7 p.m. La Crosse down to kind of Arcadia, those areas, we're going to have to keep a very close eye because this could have some significant wind gusts. We're talking maybe on upwards of 50 to 60 to 70 miles per hour as it pushes on through. By about 9 p.m., you have Madison to 39 corridor up to kind of White Lake. That's going to be some more significant winds. And I think by about midnight, it's pushing into Green Bay and out of the area, or rather by 10 p.m., it's in Green Bay, pushing out by 10 p.m. tomorrow. It's going to be a pretty nice day. You're going to have a little bit of lingering rain throughout the night, but definitely your main threat is going to be from the squall line and some possible tornadoes as that warm front pushes up towards the northern regions there. And even towards the south, we got to watch near kind of Springfield for these isolated, discrete supercells pushing on through. So, good question.
Yeah, so kind of going on down the line here from Major. Hello, North Texas is clear today, right? Our event will be more tomorrow. So, yeah, tomorrow, Mason can correct me if I'm wrong. I believe we were looking at a slight risk for that area, right?
Yeah, so you do actually have a risk today that you need to be aware of. This is just for some hail, not really tornadoes, so hail and wind around the DFW Metroplex near Waco down towards Brady, even up to Sherman and into Oklahoma. That's going to be the threat of some severe weather, but not overly. It's not nothing as severe as we've seen in the past, definitely. But yet again, it's severe weather. We gotta be weather aware for this. We'll put on the high resolution rapid refresh to give you a general idea of what we're expecting. And kind of the whole idea with this is that right throughout 4 p.m., there's not going to be a whole lot. But as we get into the 8 p.m. hour, near kind of the Metroplex, these storms are going to push on through. We could have some hail, we could have some damaging wind, but overall, it's not going to be nothing that we haven't seen before. Even into Fort Smith, into Oklahoma, that's about the same story. But into Iowa, we're definitely watching that for if they can get discreet, you would have a higher threat for tornadoes as it pushes on through, and some pretty strong straight line winds.
Right, right. So we've got about 40 people watching right now. Uh, First of all, I want to thank y'all personally for tuning in. You're probably wondering why we're live so early, not really covering a whole lot, and that's because we want to go ahead and update y'all on what could happen later on this afternoon. We're like what we're covering right now is not the main event. This is more of the pregame show, if you will. We are kind of gearing up to what could be a pretty active afternoon and evening later on today. So means that we have about 40 people here. If y'all have any more localized areas, like maybe your own hometown, in your own state, that you want us to go over, we would be more than happy to do so. Um, and by the way, if y'all haven't already, go ahead, hit the like button. That is a good way to, without contribution, that you can contribute to the live stream, or contribute rather to the live
And
stream.
getting the information out to everyone, that's really the most important part with this.
Yeah, so our overlay updated, we don't have any warnings right now. So we are currently warningless. I do
Yeah, so
believe.
this severe in Iowa, what we're going to do is we're going to draw the X on it. No longer in effect, it's pushed out. Flooding risk continues. You see all the green polygons. Those are flood threats across the board, but besides that, that warning is no longer in effect. Nothing is severe, and really, there it goes. We're going to see if uh, really how the environment handles this for the most part. And what I'm about to show you is a map, the convective available potential energy, basically storm fuel, what the storms need to grow in strength. Look at that. So over the last few hours, it's starting to really increase ever so slightly. Your warm front kind of region here is still near Des Moines, and it's going to have time to push a little more north, but at the moment we're really not seeing that. It is going to push through with time though, but really near kind of northern Missouri, that's kind of going to be a little bit of a hot spot there as we push on throughout time, I really think.
Got a comment here from Desmond Nichols. I am in Newton, Iowa. Our trailer park, Sunrise Terrace, recently took our shelter away. I'm a very seasoned chaser and radar savvy. I am absolutely terrified for this afternoon. I would not be terrified. I would not be terrified. Storm anxiety is very common amongst people who have likely been through, more significant severe weather. But what we want to hammer home today or right now is that there's no reason to be terrified. We talk about probabilities all the time, but keep in mind that when we talk about high probabilities, we talk about what we don't often talk about, rather, is the higher probability that you're not going to be impacted. We may have a 15% chance of a tornado or a significant tornado, but you have an 85% chance of not being impacted. So we don't want y'all to get all caught up in the higher end, 15 wording and all that. What we want you to do is be taking the time where you would be worried and be getting prepared. You can never be too prepared for severe weather. I don't think anyway. And my family thinks I'm crazy, but they can think that.
And
But
definitely, let's talk about if you're in a mobile home because
yeah,
that's kind of an issue. We tell people not to shelter in mobile homes, but where should they go and what's their kind of course of action?
yeah. So if you're in a mobile home, you want to go to the well. First of all, ideally, you wouldn't want to be in one. We would highly advise that if you're able, and like Mason brought up earlier in the stream, typically you have about a 10 to 15 minute lead time from a tornado warning being issued to when it typically reaches your location. Don't take that as gospel, or don't take it to heart. Take it as gospel. Uh, but we really want to emphasize now, where if you're in central Iowa, it's probably clearing out. That doesn't mean the day is over. Right now, you need to be talking with your family and trying to figure out, hey, what am I going to do in 3, 4, 5 hours from now when the weather could potentially ramp up again? While it may not have been that active this morning in terms of severe weather, this afternoon could be pretty bumpy for a majority of y'all. But kind of going back to it, if you're in a mobile home, like I said, ideally you wouldn't want to be in it. But if you are and you have no other means of getting out, we want you to go to the most interior room, um, whether it be a closet, a bathroom, and then while you're doing that, while you're going to that room, take the mattress off the bed. Grab the kid's bike helmet. If you're a regular biker, or if you have a kid that attends football practice, or any sport that allows a helmet, grab the helmet, put it on, grab the mattress off the bed, grab pillows off the couch, grab anything you can do to cushion yourself um, from any amount of flying debris. Ideally, and what I'm about to say is going to sound crazy and goofy, but if you want to punch a hole into any of the any of the four walls of the room you're currently in, or the room that you would go to if you're in a tornado warning, your fist should not go out into the outside world. Not with one punch. It should go ideally into another room. And that is said, as I said, for all four corners. You want to be enclosed around the house around you. You don't want to be able to easily be, exposed to the outside world, because we have seen it in the past from other people who weren't as fortunate, where the very outside walls of their home will cave in, but the innermost interior portion is remained intact. And that's why we urge everybody, whether you're in a mobile home or not, to go to the most interior room. Um,
Yeah.
don't go to the garage. Don't go anywhere like that. Most interior room.
Yeah. So, real quick, I want to go over the risks. Seems like we got a little more people in here. So, currently, reason we're live, there is a kind of rare level 4 out of 5 risk rather issued for severe weather today. You can see that level 4 includes Des Moines across I-80 towards I-35. So mainly we're talking about Des Moines, Cedar Rapids, Davenport, Centerville, up to about St. Joseph, even into Wisconsin. But outside of that is a greater risk of level 3 out of 4 or level 3 out of 5 threat rather. So Chicago, Green Bay, La Crosse, Rochester into Omaha, even Kansas City into Springfield. Those are some areas we're also watching for the threat of some tornadoes and damaging winds. And even to the DFW Metroplex into Fort Smith and Little Rock. That's some areas that we're also watching for severe weather. So specific impacts today, let's talk about those. So tornado risk. That red is a level 15, or a 15% risk rather, of a significant tornado, EF2 plus, within a 15 or no 25-mile radius rather. So from Cedar Rapids to Des Moines to kind of Delta. Those areas are something we're keeping a very close eye on as we go on throughout time. But even then, La Crosse into kind of Rochester, north of Kansas City, you guys are in rather a level 10 risk. And then into the 5% here, that goes all the way down to Springfield to Kansas City to Fort Smith. So that's something that we're watching, and even if you don't get a significant tornado, another very dangerous part today is that pink shading. That is a 45% chance of significant winds. That are your 70, 80 to 90 mile per hour gusts. And I know Iowa specifically, think back to 2020. We've dealt with this kind of stuff before, but understand that every event is different, and this one cannot be exactly compared to a single event. It's just the fact that we've dealt with this before, and whatever plans that you've imposed after that, you're definitely going to want to take for this. And if you're in a destructive warning today, that's the alert that comes on your phone for 80 mile per hour winds. We're going to want to go ahead and have you treat that as a tornado warning, as those winds could be pretty significant. And that goes from Des Moines to Cedar Rapids to even Davenport. But understand that up to Medford to kind of Madison to Montlow to Stevens Point, you guys could also get destructive winds. That's not completely taking you out of the board there. It's just that really this area that we're going to be watching for that is near Des Moines and those areas, but also some wind risk into Dallas and those regions as well. And we also have the chance for some significant hail as well. That does encompass Des Moines into Creston to Marysville, but overall, here's the entire risk that we're watching with that. Tomorrow, we do have a risk as well, and that is going to be a 3 out of 5 risk. It's a little bit less significant, but that's kind of putting into the area of the DFW Metroplex into Little Rock, Fort Smith, north of Jonesboro. But that goes all the way up to Buffalo, towards Columbus, Louisville, all those regions. That's because of a front that's going to push on throughout the region and possibly cause some issues there. We're looking at the threat of some tornadoes. That's rather low. That's a level 5 risk there, but mainly damaging winds, 30% chance there, and also some hail, which is also a 30%. So something that we're watching very closely. And then on to your day 3 outlook. It's a little bit less severe, but generally the same regions that we're watching there. And I don't think we have a day 4 risk, which is very nice, but that's something that we're keeping a very, very close eye in case it does something. But at the moment, we got to get through today. I think this is going to be our convection here, actually. that's going to go into the afternoon hours. Right there near Grand Island, you can see that's kind of pushing off towards the northeast. And the Storm Prediction Center actually issued a mesoscale discussion, basically just highlighting a certain area. They're saying that we could expect a tornado watch in the next hour to or 1 to 2 hours. Rather, this is the area they're highlighting for severe potential.
Yeah, there you go. And you know, we are in May. We are well, we're in the latter part of May now, and typically we associate May with more severe weather because I mean, you know, we're coming out of winter time, we're going into, you know, spring, and then, you know, soon to be summer. Um, while we don't have a day 4 risk, we do have a day 5 and a day 6 risk. The day 5, I believe, does include portions of Texas, Arkansas, and southern Missouri, if I remember correctly. And then the day 6 goes into Tennessee, Kentucky, and I believe northern Mississippi, Alabama, and into southern Ohio. I think. I'm kind of remembering that off the top of my head. But anyway, as Mason said earlier, we got to worry about today. We got to get through today, and then we can worry about you know, later on this week. But um, all that to say that we are in an active period of severe weather, and while we talk about um, what you know, could happen later on today, we haven't really talked a whole lot about what is the main causing factor as to why these storms are gonna do what they're gonna do what they're gonna do later. And maybe Mason, maybe you can go into that in terms of like maybe upper level low or closed low if you have the time to do that.
Yeah, so our current event, so kind of for today, right? Kind of general idea. So the synopsis here, which is kind of the pattern that we're looking like, and this is going to be a little bit meteorological, but we're going to sum it down for the average person here, which of course isn't going to know all of these terms, and that's perfectly normal. There's a lot of big words, but kind of what we're seeing here, we're going to start out with the upper levels, and I'm going to use the pretty graphics because they're a lot easier to understand if I just pull up the meso-analysis page, but here's that upper level jet streak. What's going to happen is that's going to move over Iowa and give us our upper level forcing and thus give us the potential for some severe storms. So it's kind of near Dodge City at the moment, and we do have some storms starting to fire. So what I think is happening is in that left exit region, the upper level divergence is allowing for some thunderstorms, which is basically just talk for lifting motion, which is going to give you some thunderstorms if the environment supports it, which we are seeing at the moment. Here's your warm front we've been talking about over the last little bit here for the most part. So Cedar Rapids, you're not quite in it yet, but this is going to lift probably up to about this region here if I had to guess. So we still have some time, and as this lifts north, the front will lift north, but overall shaping up to be
I
pretty
do
significant here.
I do believe
And here's the low-level jet on the side.
we do have a new SVR for Clay County, Fillmore County, and York County, Nebraska. So that'll be likely that complex you brought up earlier. That yeah, it will be. So there we go. First SVR.
In first SVR of this complex. So
Yeah.
it is now starting to get its act together a little bit. So down the line, Omaha, I'd probably keep us tuned a little bit because this could, hit towards the region. As to how significant, probably just some hail at the moment that we're seeing on the Doppler radar here. So south of Sun near Clay Center, there's probably a little bit of hail we're watching there. Our shear tracker, our shear rate's pretty low at the moment, but definitely that's some hail that we're watching there. Pretty sizable, talking about an inch or so as it moves along State Highway 6 and State Highway 81.
Yeah, no kidding. And so right now we have about 70 people in here. For those of y'all that are tuning in, we are live a little bit earlier today, so we can kind of let y'all know about the upcoming event that we may have ongoing, or that we will have ongoing rather later on this afternoon, and into early this evening. There's quite a bit going on right now. Well, not quite a bit going on right now, but there's going to be quite a bit going on later on this afternoon, and we're trying to let y'all know about that and keep y'all up to date. But if you haven't already, if you like what we're doing here, hit the like button. It's a good free way to not only support the channel, but it'll help get the live stream out to the people in these areas that really need to see it. The YouTube algorithm relies on the engagement, the likes of, to promote the live stream to a wider audience. So we would really appreciate it. We would really appreciate that. But yeah, we are. There's not a lot going on really out there right now. We're tracking this one severe thunderstorm warning, and let me go ahead and transition to this real quick. We're keeping an eye on this one little SVR. It is warned for 50-mile-per-hour winds and quarter-size hail. So really the bottom of the barrel, if you will, in terms of severity. But they don't have that warned for nothing. So if you live in this area, or if you know anybody that lives in like Sutton, Nebraska, Fairmont, Nebraska, McCool Junction, Nebraska, Lushton, go ahead and let them know. Go ahead and let them know. But yeah, right now we're mainly really looking at the area that could or will propagate northeast into the Iowa region, which is our main area of concern later on this afternoon. But yeah, uh, as I said, we are here. We are more than happy to answer any questions y'all may have. So if y'all have any questions, whether it be, related to weather, whether it be, you wanting to learn something different, we would love to be able to answer them here on stream for y'all. Because there is likely going to become a point here where we, for a short while in the stream, we're going to start another one up with all of our chasers and everybody here, and we're going to kind of go from there. So we're just trying to get all this out of the way. And
Yeah, that's the main thing.
yeah.
If you do subscribe, you are able to turn on post notifications. So when we do go live with our top-notch chasers, you know, they do get a lot of tornadoes, and they are able to get right up to the storm safely, of course. Uh, Turning on those post notifications will be able to notify you when we are live with their feeds, and also our analysis here back at the HQ. But to be honest, at the moment, not really seeing a whole lot. Maybe a little bit of hail starting to show up. You see those darker colors over near 41, kind of south of Sutton. Not really getting a whole lot with it. I'm gonna put up our hail tracker. And there you go. I mean, not a whole lot, but definitely if I'm in Sutton or those areas, I'd be on the lookout for a little bit of small hail.
Yeah, no kidding. You said we had an MCD earlier.
Correct. I'll go and throw that up for you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, can we pull up that graphic? Do you have the
And
graphic?
actually, I'll pull up the actual SPC's
Yeah,
graphic real
yeah,
quick of it.
yeah. That would be
Since
better.
theirs is going to give us a little more information of what they're thinking. So here's the actual graphic. Let's go and go over to browser one. So they're basically saying, highlighting a specific region for storms, fast-moving supercells capable of hazards, including some very large to large hail. Check. Strong gusts to 70. Yep, we're gonna have that, and a few tornadoes possible. They're gonna think about issuing a watch over the next hour or two, and kind of on the meteorological size or sides of things, rather, just for my sake. So they're saying recent surface analysis Primary surface low over Kansas, warm front extending into the area as well. Cold front also extends from this. Given the position of the surface features, a recent thunderstorm activity has started to go over Nebraska and Kansas. So kind of the front kind of act as a area for the storms to ride along, and that's pretty much what they're saying here. If we go to live Doppler, you can see there's your storm starting to get going along that front feature right about there. I'm also going to put on low so you can see moved a little bit north. It's pushing on through. So that certainly does add up there a little bit. Go back to our browser source. So you can see, however, primary surface low moves quickly into the area is expected to be increasingly supportive of surface-based storms. 70 miles per hour, tornadoes, large hail. Given this, a tornado watch will likely be needed over the next hour or two. So that certainly makes sense there for what we do have at the moment. So just a little severe thunderstorm warning there, to be entirely honest. Do we have any questions? Of course, I don't want to get too caught up in all this.
Yeah, for sure. If y'all have anything, are EF5s possible today? I got relatives in Omaha. Um,
So here's the thing. Even if you don't have those upper echelon tornadoes and you know, reasonably speaking, EF1s can cause a lot of damage, even EF2s, but specifically for today, what we're watching in these areas, I'm going to go and pull up the risk map, okay? These are the areas that we are watching for severe storms. The tornado risk specifically, what we're watching near Omaha is a 5 to 10% chance of tornadoes, the 10% being significant. That's your EF2 plus tornadoes, but speaking today statistically, you could possibly see a few intense tornadoes which are EF3 plus at times. We're not going to know until we actually have the storm, but yes, definitely some higher end threats today that we're going to have to keep a very close eye on.
right. And so we've got about 83 people tuning in. I want to thank you all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. For those of y'all that are new here, we are live a little bit early to cover really what could be a significant severe weather event happening later on this afternoon. We're kind of answering all the questions we can. Uh, I am in a level 4 alert, EF2 or higher predicted here in southern Wisconsin. Yeah, no doubt. Hey Joe, welcome to the stream, my man. If y'all have any questions about your own location, whether it be in the form of a zip code or a city and state, when will tornadic storms start to indicate or start to initiate rather? Yeah, Mason, you want to kind of go over initiation?
Yeah, so like we reiterated before, we'll go over because we might actually have a new model coming out here, or a new run of that model. So what we're kind of watching here, and we'll go to the high resolution rapid refresh. So it is actually getting right these storms. It thinks that we're going to get even more storms to fire near the Omaha region throughout time. But really, I think I'm going to continue banking on anything after 2 p.m. Central Time. So we still have a little bit for the environment to destabilize, but definitely after that, you have your risk of severe weather. I think this model is going a little more discreet, so our storm chasers are gonna definitely have to uh, be a little bit careful there and watch very closely for these storms. But definitely squall line, damaging winds, all possible with this, like we've been going over, and maybe a little bit more of a linear mode near Springfield. But we're gonna have to keep a extremely close eye on that throughout time. But
Right.
uh, supercells, yeah, definitely possible with this. I mean, into Des Moines, this model is a little more linear. And understand, if it's linear, like this model suggesting, that's going to give you your higher wind potential. That's your 70 to maybe even 80-mile-per-hour winds, but also some possible significant tornadoes. And we don't say that to scare you. And in fact, we want you to know what to do during a tornado. So if you are in any of these areas, I'm going to show it one more time. I'm going to actually overlay the risk underneath it. If you're in any of these regions, even the enhanced level, Hunter, what should they do in a tornado?
Yeah, so if you're under a tornado warning, first of all, we want you to go to the most interior portion of your house, whether you're in a mobile home or a site-built home with a very well-constructed foundation. It doesn't really matter, because ultimately, um, all the rules are the same, right? Like we really urge people to, number one, be ready for an event like what we could potentially have today. Um, I don't like, me personally, I don't like to say will a lot, could. We've had, a lot of events in the past that haven't performed like you'd think they would. But like, that's not to say that today is going to be one of those events. That's why I like to use the word could. We don't want to scare anybody. We don't want to, get everybody riled up for no reason. We want you to be prepared if you are under a warning, right? So, um, could y'all check on 60548? Yeah, we will check that momentarily. But when we talk about where you should go, uh, most interior room of your home, we need everybody in the family to like take the mattresses off the bed, grab the kid's bike helmet, grab put that on them, grab pillows, grab blankets, grab anything. Put if you have boots like steel toe boots, put them on, or have them readily available today if you are in a warning. Um, and we will get to y'all's questions here momentarily. But we really want to emphasize that while there's not a lot going on right now, you need to be taking the time to get prepared. Um, that way, in the event of a tornado warning, which if we can go ahead and get the watch and warning graphic pulled up here, the difference between a watch and a warning uh, is a watch is when you need to be getting prepared. So that is when you need to be going through, gathering the family up, being like, hey, here's what we're going to do during a tornado warning. A tornado warning is when you need to take that plan that you and your family gathered up and enact on it. And you need to be enacting on it the moment you get that warning. So whether you get the warning from the EAS or the emergency alert on your phone, or you get it from the TV, the local weatherman, that's when you need to be really hammering that action plan home. We really encourage everybody to take the plan, think about where you're going to go. If you live in a mobile home, whether you live in a mobile home or not, where are you going to go? Um, and so nobody knows, your house like you do. So that's why we use broad terms like the most interior room, or, like an interior closet, bathroom, anything like that. Because those rooms in your house. Um, so typically, a good rule of thumb, it may sound goofy, and it does sound goofy if I'm honest. But if you're in that, but if you're in that room that you would consider your safe room, and you want to take your fist and punch it through the wall, and your fist were to end up through like on the outside of the house in any of the four walls, you're not in a good room. You need to go to a room where all four of the holes in the wall are going to lead to another room. Uh, you never want to punch a hole in your wall and have it go outside. So we really emphasize that because we've seen it countless times. Not only as weather enthusiasts, but as people who, look at the aftermath of events like this. We see it all the time. The exterior walls of homes are typically the first to go. So that's why we really emphasize that you need to be on the innermost part of your house when you're under a warning. Um, and to kind of go through it again, we hold on, uh, Mason. Can you take over for a minute?
So yeah. So I know we had a few questions in the chat about specific locations, and rightfully so. This is a very big area. This is a, you know, probably over, I'd say 300 miles of this actual area to watch here. But here's a few location for specific metros, and then we're gonna go to the more specific areas. I just feel like metros would suit about everyone here for the most part. Let's start off with Omaha, okay? So models are right about here. So this is your model time. This is the current time. We don't really want to focus on that there too much. So current actual time are the model forecast time, so we're about 11 here. This is what the model's indicating that we're seeing. But as we go on throughout time, this model indicates that about 2 p.m. we're going to see some isolated discrete supercells start to fire across the region that could potentially be severe. I do think Omaha by about 6 p.m., maybe even 4 p.m. if we're lucky, we're done with that threat, and then partly clear skies after that for most of the area. So that's kind of your main risk for those regions there. Let's talk about Des Moines here a little bit. So here's what the model has, all of that cluster of rain pushing throughout the region. But at about 4 p.m. or so towards 5 p.m., the main issue that we're having here is seeing if this is going to be more of a discrete threat or if it's going to be more of a kind of enhanced wind threat. So if it's more discrete, if it's like these cells are showing near winter or Winterset, or if it's near the Clearfield area, these little isolated areas would have the higher threat for a tornado. Or if rather it's more of a bowing segment, it kind of looks like a bow and arrow, that would show more of a wind threat, and that's kind of what we had last time in 2020 with the derecho. It was a higher end wind threat that caused a lot of issues. But luckily, I don't really think we're going to see as bad of what it was with that. But definitely 70, 80, maybe even 90 mile per hour winds we cannot entirely rule out. But as that pushes on through, I think we're clear after midnight. For the most part, maybe an isolated shower or thunderstorm or two. But besides that, nothing all too bad, which is very good. Let's go over to Davenport near the Peoria area. So, kind of specific for you guys too. A few cells starting to fire at about 7 to 8 p.m. It's going to be kind of mixed mode. So, one model showing that we have little clustered segments. So, you have some near Iowa City, you have some north of Davenport, some south of Davenport. The area to really, or the thing to watch with this rather, is that if it's more discrete, higher tornado risk. But if it's a line, that would have a higher wind threat. But even if it is a line, you can have embedded tornadoes. But we don't want to get all too caught up in that. That's kind of the times with it. Tornadoes, damaging winds, and hail will be likely with that. It is all out of the area by probably about 11 p.m., pushing into the Illinois region. So let's back this up one more time. Let's go to Northern Illinois, Chicago. I know there's a lot of people in here who have questions for that area. So we're going on throughout time. Davenport's getting their storms, and this model specifically has light showers and thunderstorms. I'm not sure I entirely buy that. So I want to see if there's another model that has storms here because I don't want to mislead people into thinking there's not the chance for showers and thunderstorms. The ARW model, which is another one, also has them fizzling, so that's something that we're going to have to watch. You guys are still in a level 3 out of 5 risk, so I would say some smaller end tornadoes or lower end tornadoes possible. Maybe an EF2 possible with it, but I really think some damaging winds, tornadoes, and hail possible for the most part. But a lot of that is out as we go into the next day, and the ARW also has more of a wind threat for Des Moines in those areas, so that's also a little something to note there as well. Let's go over to Wisconsin, almost all of Wisconsin here, into Minneapolis. So this is what future radar has. We're going into about 4 p.m. Look at that kind of Boeing shape starting to take place. If this is more discreet, you'd have more of a tornado risk, but into about 7 p.m. or so, you're approaching the I-39 corridor. That's something that we'd have to keep a very close eye on, but maybe a few embedded rotations with that as it pushes on through. I think it approaches the Green Bay and Milwaukee areas about 10 p.m., but that is fully out probably by about 2 to 3 a.m., and then clear skies going on from that point. So, specifically Iowa, real quick, I want to pull up a graphic by the National Weather Service for some timings for the state here to get a general perspective of when we could see all of this, because models aren't going to show the entire story with it, unfortunately. So let me just get this on here real quick.
Alright, I am back, y'all. Sorry about that.
And let's go ahead and take browser source 1. So here are some of the times that we're thinking here for the round 2. Remember, like we said before, we had round 1, right? Well, we're going to have round 2 coming on throughout the region. So 2 to 3 p.m., it's going to start approaching kind of western Iowa. So that's Carroll, that's Storm Lake, that's Esterville. But once we get to 4 to 5, that's approaching some of our main metros. That's going on towards I-35. That's pushing into Des Moines. That's pushing into Ames. And by 6 to 7, it's leaving the state here into eastern Iowa and pushing into Cedar Rapids, into Waterloo, into Davenport, and ultimately into southern Wisconsin, into northern Illinois. So that's kind of the timing that we're looking at for our second round of showers and thunderstorms here for the most part. So, Hunter, we just kind of went over everything for the most part. I'm going to go put on satellite and radar if you want to kind of, or unless there's any other questions, I'm going to leave this up for a little bit here while I look at some stuff so people can see what we're currently experiencing.
Right. So, as of right now, it is 11:07 Central or 12:07 Eastern. We've got 108 people watching. We really do appreciate y'all for tuning in. For those of you wondering why we're live so early, we wanted to kind of give everybody an update on what could be, like, as I've said earlier, a pretty significant chance for severe weather later on this afternoon and evening. If y'all have any questions related to your area, feel free to throw them in the chat. And if you haven't already, hit the like button. It is a free, easy way to help promote and help the channel out. We can't thank y'all enough for those of you that do. Right now, the main goal of the like button, or of you hitting the like button, would be that we get the stream out to as many people as we can. There's likely going to come a point here within probably an hour or so where we're going to begin to wind down. The stream will end, and we're going to get everything ready, and we're going to go back live again, likely this afternoon, with 4 or 5 chasers that we have out in the Iowa, northern Missouri, and eastern Nebraska area. So
yeah, and that's super important because,
yeah.
you know, this is going to show you a ground level of what we're seeing. Our storm chasers are extremely good at what they do. They've got countless tornadoes on this stream before and have possibly saved countless lives. So we will definitely be sure to get those feeds up to you guys. But to make sure you don't miss it, make sure you hit the subscribe button and you click the little bell. It's on all platforms. That will give you the notification when we are live for any future streams to keep you advised. So real quick, we do have a new tornado watch just issued for a lot of areas. So your phone might be going off, your weather radio. Let's go in a lot of those areas, who are in and who are out of it. So just got to pull it up real quick here. So here's that new watch. That's going to include Sioux City, West Points, into Loins, into the I-29 corridor, Lincoln, Auburn, those areas. This is not the main watch. However, this is incorrect data, but it is until 5 p.m. here. What we are going to be expecting for this watch specifically is wind up to 70 miles per hour, likely, hail up to apple size, likely, and a few strong tornadoes will also be possible. Rather, that doesn't include Omaha proper, Sioux City, up towards most of the I-29 corridor, and also parts of I-80 as well. So at the moment, we don't have a lot of severe thunderstorms. You actually have one that's about to enter the area that we're going to have to keep a very close eye on. But at the moment, that is the new watch. That's the info we have. But again, if there's anything else, then I'll be sure to bring that up. But that's the newest information that we have at the moment.
Right. So we did have a question here from Aaron. Do you guys think St. Claude, was that Minneapolis? We'll see any big storms. Mason, you want to kind of go over that real quick? I gotta send a message
I
out.
think that's St. Cloud.
Is that St.
But
Cloud? Okay, yeah.
let me check. Yeah, it's me, St. Cloud.
Okay.
So, that's along the I-95 corridor. So there will be some potential. We can bring that up real quick here. The potential is just not all that large, I will say. You guys are in a level 1 out of 5 risk, and then Minneapolis and those areas are in a level 2 out of 5 risk. But really, your threat's going to be for damaging winds and some possibly larger hail. Our forecast models have been picking up on it pretty well for the most part, but you can see here on the model, this pushes on through. We're about, and I think this is not the correct model. Let's try this one more time here. There we go. Okay, so these are the storms pushing on through. And kind of you can see across the region, St. Cloud, those regions, you're not really getting those big, robust thunderstorms, but nonetheless, heavy downpours, damaging winds up to about 60 miles per hour, and some hail up to about 1.5 inches, I would say, pushing through. That's going to be the story starting about maybe 2 p.m. Central Time up to about probably 10 p.m. and we're gonna have some lingering showers and thunderstorms before that. But besides that, it's you guys have probably seen a lot worse before, and this is definitely not gonna be the storm of the day for you guys. But definitely, if you're driving, just be aware with it. And we'll keep you advised if there's really anything major. But this is our level 4 out of 5 risk. Pretty rare. You don't see them very often for Des Moines into Cedar Rapids into even Davenport. And we're going to have chasers all along here with their feeds. And if there is a tornado, we will have it for you guys and we'll be sure to give it to you or get it to you right away. Rather, but our current dew points, this warm front is actually starting to lift more north like we've been kind of talking before here. So I don't think it's quite updated. So it says it's right here. It's probably more like this at the moment. But nonetheless, we're starting to really gear up for a active period here for the next kind of few hours. I think we have a 2 hour grace period before that really starts to happen. And already on the Doppler, we have a few storms that we're watching, mainly one near Omaha, or rather west of Omaha, that's going to be right along I-80. You can see near Fairmont, those regions, we're keeping a very close eye on it, but really nothing, mainly McCool Junction here, kind of near the I-80 corridor. We're going to put on our hail tracker, and you can see that that's possibly some large hail, so probably up to over an inch to 2 inches over I-81, and that's going to push near Omaha here pretty soon, so it's something that we're gonna have to keep an eye on. Here's a new severe thunderstorm warning that's for parts of central Iowa. So this is gonna be near Knoxville, over near the New Sharon area into Brooklyn. That is a hail core right about there, south of Pella, near Knoxville. And our hail tracker shows that very clearly moving up towards the State Route 92 area there. Rotation wise, there's really nothing. This is just a hail threat for right now because our environment is not quite favorable uh, at the moment, but that's something that we definitely have to keep an eye on. We'll go ahead and do a storm track for anyone near here. I know we have a lot of people watching from central Iowa. So if we're watching this, tracking the main hail core with it, going at about 58 miles per hour. It's going to be a long storm track, but it's going to include a lot of areas here. Let's do it for 48 degrees, moving at about 58. So if this holds, this is, again, I-80 going to improve or rather approach the Linville area at about 11:34 Central Daylight Time, Oakland Acres at about 11:41, talking top of the hour, Hartwick at about 12, Chelsea at about 12:06, and into the Collier area at about 12:15. So that's some of the storm track times that we have for the storm here. Flash flood warnings do remain in effect for a lot of areas for the storms we had earlier in the day that caused some issues in terms of flooding, but we're not really seeing that at the moment, to be entirely honest. So a lot of these are gonna be allowed to expire here very, very soon, which is good. And if Hunter, you're back, you can go over a few things here since we do have a flood risk today.
Yeah, yeah, no kidding. Real quick, I do want to kind of go over the Waco, Nebraska area. Got a commenter here. I'm in Waco, Nebraska. Bad storms coming. How are we looking? So Waco, Nebraska.
So I'm gonna have to kind of jog my memory here. Waco, Nebraska.
Hmm.
Yeah, so you guys are right here, so kind of along 34. So that storm for right now is to the south of you, but that could change here relatively soon as it pushes off towards the north. Let's go and take the radar so we can get a, better view of it all. So you can see near McCool Junction, that's south of Waco, but nonetheless, there's some larger hail with that. So Waco, what I would prepare for, no tornado threat, but some large hail. Our Doppler is showing upwards of, let's see here, about maybe 2 inches, about 1.5 inches with that, pushing up along the I-80 region. So mainly, you're not talking about a tornado risk with it, but some large hail and maybe some damaging winds we also can't rule out with it, unfortunately, as it pushes off towards the Omaha metro area. So, good questions.
Yeah, yeah, no kidding. And again, so we've got about 150 people in the chat, for those, or watching rather. So, first of all, we want to thank y'all for tuning in. If y'all haven't already, be sure to hit the like button. It's a good, free, and easy way to contribute. It'll help spread the live stream out to more people who might be in the affected area. And moreover than that, um, if you guys live in any of the affected areas or you want to know about any information about your area,
Yeah,
be sure to throw it in the chat. We're kind of in. Uh,
definitely be sure to throw it in there.
yeah, not a problem. Thank you, gonna watch because I live in Omaha. Yeah, and our town is flooded. Yeah, I mean, y'all have had a lot of rain over the past few days.
I mean, I'll go ahead and throw up some of those totals. I
Yeah,
mean, it's been a good amount. Here's the precipitation amount over the last 24 hours. You guys have even more rains had on top of that, so we're probably gonna get some more flash flood warnings. Once it updates here, it should fix. But this is Omaha, last 24 hours of storms, maybe 7 inches in spots. You see 5 inches, 6 inches, and even the current flash flood warnings, there's about 5 to maybe an isolated 8 inch in some areas. It's just torrential downpours with this. You hate to see it, but while everyone's focusing on the severe threat, flooding is a real deal for a lot of regions. So you just have to know what to do. Turn around, don't drown, and opposite of a tornado warning, you want to get to the highest level if you do have flooding going towards your home or anywheres like that, but definitely that severe warning. We're going to go over them one more time here. So that is for, and they are observing with this now about 1.5 inches, a little bit less than a half inch of hail there. But the winds are very low with them, not very low, but they're below severe limits, near about 50 miles per hour. So definitely near Waco, kind of near the Beaver Crossing region. You can see State Highway 93B up towards I-80. You guys are probably getting hammered with some hail here. I would very much not be surprised with it. So kind of north of McCool Junction, you can see that little area of hail that we're starting to get with it. And that's going to continue probably all the way up to about the B area, up to the White into Column there as it approaches the radar site, actually. And then our other severe warning is going to be near Des Moines for anyone near there. The actual Des Moines metro is safe for the moment, but nasty hailer there pulling up towards the Pella region. That's State Highway 163, State Route 63, going up to New Sharon. That turns into 146. But a few areas down the road, that's what we'd be seeing. They're now going to call this a considerable risk for hail upwards of 2 inches and 60-mile-per-hour winds. Definitely, we don't want to mess around with that. We'll do another storm track on it to keep you guys alerted with it. They've pulled down the risk a little bit. We'll do it for 50 miles here for anyone in the path. So we're going out to about 58. And they're going to have it moving at a 48-degree angle. So if these storm tracks hold, you're talking same areas, but New Sharon, 1135, pretty much right now, I would say. Going to the Malcolm area at about 1150. You're approaching Brooklyn and the I-80 area at about 1156, top of the hour, Hardwick, and Chelsea, 1208, into the Vining area at about 1212. So definitely starting to ramp up here a little bit. That severe warning was just extended rather. So if you're near I-80, Lincoln, you guys have no threat for right now. That is moving more towards the northeast of you into the kind of Temora, into the Seaward area, into Dwight, like we were just talking about here a second ago. They're still now going up to half-inch of hail there, moving into those regions. We'll do a storm track if you want to go over some of those times, Hunter, once I can pull it.
Yeah, sure.
So let's do, that's going to move out at about 49 miles per hour and 49-degree angle. So that's going to be some of the areas that are in the path. There we go.
Yeah, so that'll be Cordova by 11:24. That'll be Beaver Crossing by 11:30. That'll be B by 11:51. Dwight by 11:57. Bernard by 12:03, and Bruno by 12:10 p.m. So if y'all know anybody, is it shifting more north? You're referring to that Waco.
It's kind of shifting more
Yeah.
north a little bit there. That's what the Weather Service warned it for. So, a little something to watch. But we have some more supercells, or some more cells rather, starting to fire a little bit north of that. So, that's a little bit interesting there. But here's what we're currently shaping up on satellite and radar. You can see it's starting to get a little more active, and I'm going to check a few sources if you want to go over a few miscellaneous things that we're watching here and see if we're actually starting to get rid of that cloud cover and starting to destabilize a little bit.
By the way, I'm not sure if you're in the chat, Clara, but we want to thank you for the $5 Patreon membership. You're amazing. Thank you so much. You didn't have to do that. Just want to let you know I got the email.
So
We want to thank y'all for that.
definitely watching near Omaha. For anyone near there or around that region, that's something that we're going to have to keep a very close eye on. You guys are in a tornado watch, which means conditions are favorable. And real quick, since we have warnings, we have watches, it might be a little bit confusing. Hunter's going to go over the warning types and the watch rather types that we have and that we could experience today.
Yeah, no kidding. So, um, it is, imperative that you know the difference between a watch and a warning. Many people really do get confused by a watch and a warning. As many times as you may see it on TV, it can get confusing when you hear it all the time. Whatever. So a tornado watch or a severe thunderstorm watch means that conditions are becoming favorable for the development of severe weather, or they are favorable, rather. A tornado warning is when you need to be enacting on that plan. So, with a tornado watch, you need to, gather your family up in the living room, have a family meeting, right? Have a sit down, and talk about what y'all are gonna do in the event of a tornado warning. And so whether that be, I highly encourage in that meeting you discuss what room you're gonna go to, because as I said earlier, nobody knows your house as good as you do, right? That's why we use very broad terms when we're describing where you should go when a tornado warning is issued. Uh, we use terms like, the most interior room. You know, where the most interior room is in your house. If you were to punch a wall or punch a hole through any of the four walls in your house or in that room that you would go to, and your fist ends up outside, you gotta find a different room to go into. We don't encourage anyone to be in a room where any of the four walls are lead to an outside area on the other side. So we would rather you be in the most interior room with all four walls and being encompassed by the rest of the house. We say this because, as weather enthusiasts, we've seen damage. We've seen what happens when an EF2, EF1, EF3 tornado, goes through a house. The exterior walls are the first walls to go when you have 110, 120 mile per hour winds going through, and a majority of people don't know that going to the most interior room is how you are going to likely be completely fine if you were to God forbid, be under a warning and be impacted by one. So we really emphasize that while you're under a tornado watch, like some portions of far western Iowa and far eastern Nebraska are now, that you really do get ready and you really do prepare. Because what we see a lot of people do, and what I've heard is that a lot of people either they didn't know about the warning or they didn't have time to get to their safe spot. That's why we're live now, is to kind of reemphasize what you should know, and how you and your family can get prepared. I know a lot of people go into work at 6 a.m., and I know a lot of people get off work at 3 p.m. And at around that time frame is when we're really going to see our event really kick off. So we really encourage everybody to take the 3 or 4 hours that you have right now, to go ahead and prepare and to get ready and talk with the family about where you're going to go, what you can do to keep your family safe, along with the overall going to the most interior room. We highly recommend that you, as crazy as it sounds, take the mattress off the bed. Put the mattress over you. Grab a helmet. Grab a whistle. Grab, boots. If you have steel-toe boots, grab them. Because God forbid you have to walk over your home. Nails. 2x4s. Anything. You don't want to be impaled by potentially a rusty nail. You know, as bad as losing your house is, you don't want to have to take a trip to the ER to get a tetanus shot. They are not fun. Don't ask me how I know. But we really want to emphasize that y'all need to be prepared for days like today, because while moderate risk or higher end outlook days aren't particularly rare, they are something to be noticed and something to be aware of. We maybe get a moderate risk 10% of the time out of the year, or 10 maybe 10 times a year. Um, I think would be a good ballpark figure. But really, we want y'all to be ready and to know the difference between a watch and a warning. Because they are very different, and knowing the difference between them could save your life one day. I know, with me growing up in a family that it hasn't been impacted, by a tornado in 30 years. We were impacted by one on December 9th, and thankfully we weren't directly impacted, but it changed my family's perspective. Prior to December 9th of 2023, I would be looked at funny, or I would get that weird look, from my mom and brother. But now they know that maybe the weather is something to take pretty seriously when it does get bad. But you know that shouldn't be a lesson anybody has to learn. If your home or your road hasn't been impacted in 30, 20 years, none of that matters. It only takes one time for your life to be potentially altered. Um, so we want you to really emphasize what we're saying here, and to really prepare. Mason, have we got anything else anything to go over?
I'm not seeing all too much at the moment. Kind of the same things we've been talking about here. The severe thunderstorm warnings are continuing to go up, but really, we're not seeing a lot of rotation with them, which is good. But that could change with time. Rapid air mass recovery starting to really pick up across the area, and we think without time, or throughout time rather, that's going to change pretty significantly, where we have a more unstable atmosphere to work with for severe storms. So,
Yeah, no kidding. So, Clara, I really appreciate your stream. I've learned a lot since I started watching. Hey, we really appreciate that. Thank you. There's a reason why we're here early. There's a reason why we're live early, and that's to try to get everybody caught up. Cause like normally, a majority of people go live during when the event is at its peak, and to be honest with you, what good is that when you may not even know there's a risk area? So that's why we're going live early, to kind of give everybody a heads up as to what could be going on later today. Whether or not it be, you know, whether or not you learn something from the stream is irrelevant. The key takeaway though is that when it comes to learning about watchers, warnings, and what it all means, uh, I'm going to kind of take this question here. Is there a chance it gets upgraded to a high risk if supercells can remain sustained? I'm truly
the
worried.
odds of that is relatively low. I think at that point, or at this point, odds of a high risk upgrade are probably near 5% or even lower. But even then, we've seen more significant tornadoes in moderates over high risk. It really doesn't matter. It's just, at the end of the day, the high risk is more of a confidence thing. It's basically, okay, this is probably likely going to happen. And the moderate's more like, we think it's going to happen, but it's just not as confident. But either way, moderate or not, no matter how we shape this up, it is still a pretty potent environment ahead of all these storms. And what I can do is actually put on let's see here, the actual risk outlook, and you can see that this is the upper level kind of momentum that's causing these storms that are going to go over the moderate risk later on throughout the day. So just have multiple ways to get warnings and all of that good stuff that we've been preaching here for a little while.
Yeah, no kidding. So, to kind of go over a real quick refresher, we're at 11:34 p.m. Or a.m. Central, and 12:34 a.m. Eastern. Got about 134 y'all watching. We really do appreciate y'all for tuning in. If y'all have any questions in the chat, we would love to go over them. As because right now there's not really a whole lot to cover. Uh, but yeah. And also if y'all will, uh, go ahead hit the like button. You know we've got 143 people here. If we can get 100 before we end up ending the stream, before we end up getting ready for a stream later on this afternoon, that would be amazing. You know, we love it when y'all hit the like button because we can get the stream out to more people, and really let a lot more of a broad audience know um, about the potential severe weather later
Yeah,
on.
definitely. If you could
Yeah.
pull my thing one more time here, just so we can get it back up and going. Just a few technical difficulties.
Oh wait. Oh yeah.
Honestly, nothing
You're.
all that major there.
Oh yeah. Hold on
Uh,
1 second.
but I know you guys can't see radar at the moment. It's a little bit frozen there, but nonetheless, we are just tracking some severe thunderstorms. Those warnings that I talked about earlier really have not changed all too much. You can see the one near Omaha there. We're not really seeing nothing on the velocity product, to be entirely honest with you, but nonetheless, large hail, damaging winds, all possible. With this here as we go on throughout time. And once it's pulled again, we'll go take up our Doppler radar here to get a full kind of idea. Let me go back to the US view and we'll zoom in.
I
But
will.
definitely some large hail near the Tambora area, pushing into B, Dwight,
All right.
those
Let me
regions.
go ahead and reselect that and move that over. All right, you're good to go.
All right, we should have our radar back here. Just a few technical difficulties. Surprisingly, we haven't had more today.
No,
But
yeah.
yeah, thankfully not. But Tamora up to B, so that's uh, if we can pull up some of those town names real quick. So this is gonna be State Highway 15, and then I have State. Uh, if I can pull this one, it doesn't seem like it wants to cooperate. State Route 12C into State Route 66 there. So those are some of the areas that we're watching. But to be honest with you, mainly a hail threat. And if I pull up the hail tracker, you will see exactly what we're talking about here. Right over the town of Utasa, I think is how it's pronounced. It may be pronounced a little bit different, but kind of near Tamora, you're talking about hail up to an inch, maybe up to half an inch. That's the new scan. Definitely probably some 2-inch stones with this. I'm not sure if we have spotters still confirming it. They're saying up to near 2-inch hail with it, but your winds are still rather low at the moment. And what this is telling me is that the tornado threat is rather low at the moment, and it's more of a hail risk that we're watching, and that should continue for the most part. And even into the Des Moines area, we're watching these little supercells. It's pushing up near the New Sharon area into Shearsboro, or ultimately up. It's gonna go to near Brooklyn, probably along I-80 there, and pretty much the same copy and pasted threat that we've been talking about here for a little bit, which is your large hail, damaging winds, kind of near and around the New Sharon region that we're still watching. You're probably gonna get hail up to an inch. I wouldn't be very much surprised by that whatsoever, but besides that, your rotation is really low. So I know a lot of people are worrying about the tornado risk. With this, you look for your reds and greens really tight to each other, and we're just not seeing that, which indicates that your tornado threat is just very low for right now, which is good. But our convective available potential energy, which is your storm fuel, is really starting to shoot up north, which will kind of impact the risk as we go on throughout time and kind of increase it and set the bar a little bit higher there. So just something to note with all this.
Yeah. So as we've kind of you know gone through everything, if y'all have any locations or any questions about around the area that you live in, we would love to go over them. We we're not really doing a whole lot right now because there's not really a whole lot to cover. We want to make sure we can tell you that you're gonna be safe. The sun is trying to peek through the clouds here in the Twin Cities. Yeah. So to kind of go over that, um, earlier this morning we had a pretty good what we call a quasi-linear convective system. I believe is what you would call that. Move on through. And so really that was just a really hefty line. What are we looking at what are we looking at northwest of Waterloo, Iowa today? Sun is out in Butler County.
So, Waterloo, Iowa. Currently, yeah, the sun is probably starting to peek through a little bit there at the moment. You guys really don't have a lot of rain to speak of. All of those severe storms are to the south, but that will change throughout time as you guys are in a level 4 out of 5 risk for the severe weather today. And we'll go ahead and go through future radar one more time here since new people might be joining in. They don't know the situation. But nonetheless, it's going to put on the day 1 risk. That is the moderate risk. Outside is the level 3 out of 4, level 2 out of 4, and then the level 1 out of 4. But this is what our forecast model is showing. This is the newest one. It's hot off the press here. You can see it has these cells moving on through, possibly posing a tornado threat. Now, this is something that's new that I told you that we might have is some prefrontal development. So this would pose some sort of risk as it moves into Kirksville, ultimately near Waterloo as well. But what I'm thinking for you guys are maybe some tornadic supercells, but this line as it pushes on through could have some 70, maybe even 80 mile per hour winds associated with it. But it should be out before or after rather 10 p.m. And then after mainly just some light showers pretty much for all the area. But that's extremely concerning, those prefrontals, as even all the way down to Columbia, those could produce some tornadoes as we go on throughout time there. So that's something that we're going to be keeping an eye on. Even our friends up in Wisconsin, that's something that we're watching as well. Little Boeing segment moving through there, I-39 corridor all the way through 94. Definitely some strong winds, 70 to 80. Can't roll out even a 90 mile per hour wind gust with them as well. So just some active weather ahead of us all. You can see that one more time pushing on through. Really after 2, we start to ramp up and go downhill from there.
Yeah, yeah, no kidding. So again, as we continue to go on throughout time, we are going to see our severe weather really ramp up. Probably, I would say within, oh man, the next 2-3 hours. Um, I know we had a few comments about some of y'all living in Iowa that were seeing sunshine. That is not what you want to see on a day like today, wherein you have what you call rapid air mass recovery, which is a term that is used to describe the atmosphere. So earlier we brought up that line of rain and showers that came through, and that basically swept the atmosphere clean of any of the ingredients that you need to, have severe weather. But right behind that, you had the sun, which is, taking all the, water that fell on the ground and is basically evaporating it right back up, as like a layman's term. Um, but yeah, so as we continue on throughout the day, you're going to have that daytime heating from the sun continuing to make the atmosphere more and more unstable. And, ultimately later on today, we may have storms that take advantage of that environment and end up producing some pretty rough weather up there for the folks up there in central and southern Iowa, maybe all the way up into northern Missouri. So, I'll be out chasing Northern Iowa, naming Triple R, or yeah, man. Models are all over, but nevertheless, you want to take all models, with a grain of salt. They are computer generated. They are. They give you a rough idea of what an event could be like, but they're never 110% accurate. That's why we always say to, we don't care if you're in the level 3 out of 4 or the level 4 out of 5 or any outlook. Um, all that matters is that you are ready for any severe weather that ends up, God forbid, impacting your living quarters. Um, but to kind of preface everything, we're live a little bit early to kind of keep you all posted and to kind of update everybody on where this could happen, on where this could end up. Again, probably within, I want to say, another 15, 20 minutes, we're going to end up ending this live stream for probably an hour, hour and a half. And then we're going to come back live with our chasers and everybody, ready to go. And we're going to be in full blown coverage mode, likely later on this afternoon.
Yeah, so what we're going to do is for the next 15 minutes, if you have questions about your area, about anything really, put them down below. For the next 15 minutes, we're going to strictly be talking about, your locations and everything. And then we will be live with a new live stream with live storm chasers on the ground under the storms, giving you what the storm is actually doing, not just radar. So if you hit the subscribe button, it's going to have a little bell. If you click that, you will get a notification when we go live again. But at the moment, we're just going to take a few questions as these storms are not too severe and the environment still needs to cook a little bit more before it's able to do a whole lot. So we'll go and take some questions, roll them in.
Yeah, yeah. Let's see. What are the probs on that TOA while we're waiting? Is it 50-40?
I think so.
Okay. Best spot to set up for late afternoon storm coverage. We don't really particularly like giving advice on where you should set up. Uh, we would like to keep it mainly because we don't want to be held responsible for you possibly getting hurt.
But yeah, the main area
Yeah,
though is kind of Iowa. A lot of people are going to southwest Iowa. A lot of people are going to central Iowa. So it really just depends. You got to put your forecasting work in there. But definitely, Iowa could be an area. Also, you have Wisconsin. We also have northern Missouri, which is really up to the chaser there. But we will have a lot of our guys out there, kind of getting under the mezzo and giving us the latest information.
yeah. So we had a comment. Forecast probability Omaha, Nebraska. I live in Elkhorn. We just got wow, yeah, wow. We just got hit a few weeks back. Wow. Yeah. So
Yeah, so
Elkhorn.
Elkhorn specifically, that was up near here. So let me go and go to the actual radar in Omaha. So Elkhorn, refresh my memory. I do know where it is, but I don't. Think looking from Omaha, it's
And
we're just gonna look at this area specifically. So around Omaha, which got hit very, very hard. So this cell at the moment, you guys are in a tornado watch. That is going for the next few hours here. At the moment, this supercell is not looking like a tornado risk. If anything, there's Elkhorn. If anything, this looks like a hail and some damaging wind type threat with it, and the Weather Service agrees. Up to 2-inch hail, less than 50-mile-per-hour wind, but at the moment, you guys are not even seeing a storm threat right now. This might go a little bit north of you here, but just be prepared for any warnings that come from it. I don't think this will be as severe as the last event you guys had. I think it's going to be well placed off to the east of you, but still be prepared, have a plan in place for if it does occur, and we'll keep you all advised of that. But for right now, just about upwards to 2-inch hail with it, I would mainly say.
Yeah. And then kind of in the same vein, Council Bluffs, Iowa. I know we've heard that place a lot on stream. And we're really gonna kind of be reiterating what we've been talking about all like the entire stream.
Pretty
Um,
much. Let's just do this for all of Iowa here. So at the moment, current Iowa radar, we're not having a whole lot. There's mainly 2 watches in effect. You have this one for parts of western Iowa here. That's going until 5 p.m. Gust to 70, 3-inch hail, few tornadoes, and then this severe watch, which is about to expire here in about an hour for some severe thunderstorm conditions. You guys only really have one storm that we're watching here that's moving through Brooklyn that we've been going through. Tornado threat's very low with it, but as we go on throughout time, future radar is really starting to hint that we're gonna have some issues here with these storms as they could be severe and potentially tornadic. So let's go ahead and throw that up real quick here and get that done for Iowa. So as you can see here, this is the high resolution rapid refresh model. So it's moving on through. This is 3 p.m. going along the I-80 corridor towards the north. This could be a bit severe, but right here we're watching discrete isolated supercells that could possibly pose a tornado threat as we go on throughout time. And to about 4 p.m., 5 p.m., you can see more discrete cells firing even ahead of the line into Cedar Rapids, south of Cedar Rapids, and around that region into Davenport. That's kind of the area we're to be watching. I think it's more of a clustered mode near Mason City, but that's kind of the general region that we're watching. And into about 7 p.m., more of a clustered mode, still damaging wind threat towards the north, towards the south is your higher tornado potential that we're going to be keeping a close eye on, and I think it's completely out of the Iowa region by around 10 to 11 p.m. Central Daylight Time. So it's kind of what we have here at the moment. I think we have a new warning here for parts of Iowa.
I believe. Yeah, hold on. No, that'll be for Nebraska, I believe. Yeah, or is
So
that
this is a
Iowa?
new one too. This is
Okay, yeah.
going well, it was issued at 151. So parts of Williamsboro into the I-80 corridor 21 to 12 there, south of Fairfax, south of Cedar Rapids. That's an area that we're keeping a close eye on, but mainly Omaha is what we're keeping an eye on for those stronger storms, of course.
Yeah, no doubt. So, from Jim Brower, I'm about 50 minutes east of Council Bluffs. Some districts are releasing schools early today to avoid dismissal times during the possible storm front. Okay, hey, that's good to know. Thank you, Jim. So, really, typically, schools, th- this is going to be controversial, uh, but for me, I would rather keep my kids at school, even if it means like the late dismissal, because schools are built very well, and if it means them staying at school for maybe another hour, um, to be safe in that building, then you know I would rather have my kids hang out there, and that is going to be a new considerable for Iowa. I cannot say that county name, but that let's see here. You may have to end up. Did that come through on SB3? uh, it might have, but anyway, uh, we want to emphasize, right, that you know, I like for me, if I were a parent, I would rather have my kids hang out at school for a little while. So, um, like I said, we've got about 120 people watching. If y'all will go ahead and hit that like button, we're gonna be ending the stream here within probably 5 minutes. So if we can get the stream to 100 likes before we end it off, that would be amazing. We appreciate all the support from y'all. We really do. And again, I want to thank Clara before I forget for the $5 Patreon membership. You really didn't have to do that. We really do appreciate any and all donations. You know, even those of y'all that haven't, that don't contribute, financially, but those of you that subscribe and like, we can't
Yeah,
thank y'all
liking
enough.
that does even more. I mean, that
Yeah,
really
yeah,
does mean a lot, and it does help get out the information to a lot of people, which also does mean a lot. So we're gonna start to wrap up here. We'll take one or two more questions, and then we're gonna end. We're gonna get our chasers set up for a new live stream. So if you like and you hit that little bell, it will notify you when we are live again, so you can get that notification and jump and stream here, because our chasers, they're some of the best, and they will certainly be on almost every storm we have today to give you a look of what's going on underneath that mezzo, or that storm rather. So
right.
uh don't see a whole lot of questions, but
SBC has been confident since. Well, how does Northern Indiana look this afternoon?
Northern Indiana, so you guys really aren't in any sort of risk, to be honest. Tomorrow you guys have a risk, but for today, if I can throw that up real quick. Today you guys are just in a level 2 out of 5 risk, into a level 1 out of 5 risk, but for tomorrow, most of the area is in a, if this wants to work here for me, most of the area is in our south of Indianapolis, rather, is in a level 2 out of 5 risk for some damaging winds and hail for the most part. So you're not really talking about a tornado threat with it, but it is something that we're keeping an eye on, and that's amidst of the actual level 3 out of 5 risk for parts of the Fort Worth metro into the Little Rock region.
Yeah, yeah, no kidding. So, um, yeah. So again, y'all, we're hitting on the 12 o'clock time frame, 12 o'clock p.m. or noon. We are gonna be ending the stream at noon, so we've got about 2 more minutes here. If y'all have any, I'll tell you what, we'll do one more question and then we're gonna wrap it up. Do one more question. Anybody in the chat? And while we're waiting for that, we are gonna be live again. Um, later on here, I would say within 2 hours, maybe 2.5 hours after the stream is over, if not sooner. Uh, to kind of give y'all more on the ground truth. So go ahead, hit that sub button, and be sure to hit that little bell notification button. When you hit the subscribe button, the bell notification button should be on the left of it, I do believe. So go ahead and click that button so y'all know when we'll be live. But yeah, we got about another 2 minutes to go here, and then we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up.
But yeah, we do appreciate you guys for watching and trusting us with your weather. Uh, but if there's anything else, we'll be right back on here. It's just the threats are mainly hail for the moment, so if you are in a warning, make sure you take it seriously and all of that good stuff there for the most part. So again, we'll be back here with live storm chasers. They're the best in the field, I will say, and they will be able to give you guys live on the ground reports with this all. So once again, thank you all for watching. Thank you for liking. Thank you for subscribing. And if we don't have anything else, we're gonna go ahead and start to end it here
Yeah.
and all that good stuff.
All right, y'all. We're coming up on 12 o'clock. We appreciate y'all for watching. Again, we will be live again in probably, I want to say, another 2 hours, 2.5 hours. Got a little bit more prep work to do, and then we'll be right here back with you. So we appreciate y'all for tuning in, and we will see you later on this afternoon.